Rutherford Issues with Bryan Barrett on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Rutherford Issues, powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. They partner with schools and families to support learning and inspire young minds. You'll want to find out more at MTE.com. MTE has proudly been supporting our community for nearly 90 years. 90 years next year, 2026. Amazing stuff. Joining us this morning from the Heart of Tennessee chapter of the American Red Cross, John Mitchell is here. John, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Brian. Good to see you today.
Good to see you. I saw your sleeve rolled up in a Facebook post not too long ago.
Yeah, I was giving blood and encourage everybody to do so. You can do it several different ways. If you wanted to give platelets, you do need to come to the Fix Site Center off of Memorial Boulevard. But we have a lot of blood drives happening at different locations, which kind of builds in to what I wanted to talk a little bit about more today is our need for partnerships and how important it is for us and how we have great partners helping us deliver the mission in many different ways to the Red Cross. I was at First Baptist Church. No, it was a Presbyterian church, and I think Bart was there. So I seen
First Pres.
Yeah. So if you go to a blood drive, you might end up seeing a bunch of good friends that are doing the same thing. We have a blood drive coming up at a church that's one of our better partners, First Baptist Church on Castle Street. That'll be on July the 1st. That particular blood drive is geared around sickle cell. A lot of people don't realize it, but sickle cell is a disease that approximately 100,000 people in the U.S. have. Most of the people with sickle cell are African American descent. It affects 1 out of 365 American babies born in the country. So that's why, with that church having a local interest, they're promoting that within their congregation, and we're promoting it largely without the state. Because people that are suffering from that disease, they have to go through a lot of transfusions, and ethnicity matters in blood. So it's something I didn't know before.
Interesting.
So
I've heard about sickle cell anemia. That I guess the anemia part has been kind of taken off, but it's a blood disease, right?
It is, and it's difficult for the blood to flow smoothly. Enough to oxygen, and that's why they have to this is what it catches your attention. They go through a lot of severe pain and with the oxygen and the tissue. So in that part, they have to get transfusions, and they have to get quite a few. So I never would have known that before I worked for the Red Cross and learned that sickle cell anemia is something that the African American community can kind of rally around and help each other with. So July the 1st, First Baptist on Castle Street, you can go to redcrossblood.org and look for all the blood drives that are happening and sign up. But more importantly, what I would like to make an appeal today is for more partners, whether it be us working with a lot of governments. A lot of people don't realize we're a government instrumentality. We are not funded or part of the government. We are mandated by the government to provide our services, but we're an unfunded mandate. So that's where partners with corporations and people that give is key for us. So whether it's companies or schools or emergency management, we work alongside of them. We don't try to be all things to all people. We have to have our partners to do that. So church partners would be really key for us to consider to look at. So if you represent a church, you could consider hosting a blood drive, doing what we call a Sound the Alarm, Save a Life, Homes Made Safer event, where we install smoke alarms in your community surrounding your church. Sheltering is a great opportunity if a disaster happens and you have the right facilities. What we would love to do is come in and train your church members to run the shelter. We can do that, but we feel it's best for, that church to have their members trained up. So if we have to, provide housing to people through a disaster, you get a chance to serve them, in your church. But we can train you up on the way to do that. So feeding is another one. I know when I went to a disaster in Florida, the Red Cross had received a lot of money for feeding. And so one of the things we did is partnered with the Baptist Association, and they sent a lot of manpower down at one of their churches, and they were the ones, packing up the meals and sending them out. So we're going to step in and step out where we're needed. So if we can find a partner that can, take the money that we've raised to, we provide them the money and they provide the manpower and the service, we'll gladly do that. So that's my goal today, is to maybe catch somebody's ear and say, hey, I've got an organization or a church, and we would like to find out how to partner with you.
Interesting that you bring this up. So I want to ask you a few questions about this. So for some reason, don't watch my YouTube channel, what I've been watching, because it's all weather stuff. And I've run into a few old pieces that were put together about the 2009 Good Friday tornado. And I know that we had, pretty sure that New Vision Church was one of the shelter locations there. But it got me to thinking about the organization of all of that. So does the Red Cross in communities like Rutherford County, the areas, do you know the areas that have said yes, put their yes on the table of we'll partner in an event like this? I mean, you have to have some type of plans already in place even before a disaster strikes.
Yeah, I'll brag on one of our volunteers, Sharon Joseph. She kind of leads our sheltering. That we have a vast amount of paperwork on where we update it annually with partners each year. So we have a memo of understanding with churches. And so we continually try to build on that. The tricky part to that is, where's the disaster going to hit? Is that the great location? Now, Reedville, actually, I see your screen back there.
Zooming in.
Reedville was a great example of that. So sometimes you have to just act in the moment. And in that case, we really started a respite center right there at the school that ended up going to the Church of Christ down the street. They were actually functioning at a very high level with feeding. That community responded, really well. And
the church was doing that on their own, right?
The church was doing that on their own, and we set up a shelter in the school. One thing that's really common in the South is, because of the hospitality and I can't really come up with another word, but Southern hospitality and Southern mindset, a lot of people will find some place to stay, whether it be a friend or a family member. And so sometimes our shelters aren't overwhelmed, but it still is the nucleus of all of our operations. So we encourage people to come and use the shelter. It's there if they need it. But we will kind of use that as our headquarters, if you will, to be, doing the feeding, working with the community partners, just attacking the needs that we do. A good example is when we got around to the, I think it's New Hope Church of Christ that I'm referencing in Reedville. Even though we didn't stage the shelter there, we were there every day after our shelter closed. And they allowed us to, work side by side for them when it came time for us to give out some financial resources to those people in that community that qualified. That was the place that we asked everybody to come.
Yeah. I have heard, and in many of those documentaries, and the tornado that went through southern Kentucky, Mayfield, Kentucky years ago, that tragedy that happened there, and just other places. And every time there's something that happens in Tennessee, whenever there's a natural disaster like that, there are always stories that follow of we had so many people who wanted to volunteer to help that we had to start signing up people and even turning away some people because we had so much help to go in and with their chainsaws and do this and that. So maybe while there's not a storm, while we're not picking up pieces in the very early stages, a good opportunity to volunteer and say, yes, I want to help when this happens again. Not if, but when.
Yeah, and we have opportunities outside the disaster arena, where we could say, okay, if you're interested in helping and that disaster comes and you have a shelter team, guess what? While you're, I don't want to say waiting, but, till
Sure.
a disaster happens, go ahead and let's get ahead of the ball game and let's make some homes safer and get the information out about tornado safety and fire safety and canvass that neighborhood, that community that you already represent. And that's why I brag on First Baptist Church. They see that as their community all around the blocks around that church. And so they see that as a service to them. And so when we walk around that neighborhood and provide that information, install free smoke alarms, it's just a natural. But, to your point about, engaging with us, we don't know where the actual event is going to happen, but we've had to learn to change over the years. Right now, we have a lot of discussions about making it easier for what we call event-based volunteers, because sometimes you say, okay, well, we've got to have somebody trained and vetted, because our volunteers, they got the keys to the ship. They're the ones giving out the money, so you've got to have a process where there's some trust and there's some background of integrity with our volunteers. But we are learning that there may be a time for us to loosen up some of our constraints to where, how much training does it take to give out a bottle of water?
Right.
How much training does it take for you to set up a cot? And so we're learning to be a little more flexible in that area. So that's why we want to continue to talk to churches and let them know. Maybe a couple of years we, had a conversation with you and we were pretty rigid on how we were doing that. Now our conversation has totally shifted to say, hey, listen, we want the local response to be covered by the local community, and we want to talk with our partners and see how that can work.
So for those business owners here, maybe you're saying, I don't really know what I could do. I don't, maybe put together a blood drive,
Absolutely.
If you're a real estate agency, you've got a real estate office, maybe challenge the realtors here in Rutherford County to do a blood drive. I mean, things like that. Those are the types of partnerships that you're talking about. And for those that are maybe interested in thinking about that, John, here in our area, in the heart of Tennessee, Red Cross, what would they need to do? Contact you?
Yeah, I'll give out my cell phone, because we all operate off of cell phones. We don't actually have a phone line anymore. But my particular cell phone is 615-651-3405. You can go to redcross.org, and if you ask to, give blood or do different things, it will eventually get back to us. But you can visit the Heart of Tennessee Red Cross page and get a message into us. Or just stop by our office at 501 Memorial Boulevard.
John Mitchell joining us today. John, thanks for coming in. Happy Father's Day this weekend.
Happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
And, John Mitchell here, our guest. Don't forget, if you missed part of our conversation, the podcast, it'll go up shortly. WGNSradio.com under podcast and Rutherford Issues, or wherever you take in podcast.